The Trunews coverage of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, St. Petersburg, Russia. I'm Rick Wiles, and with me today is investor Jim Rogers, chairman of Rogers Holding Incorporated. It's an honor to meet you after all these years.
It's a delight to see you
by telephone.
Yeah, now I meet you in person, Rick.
Yes, sir. Jim, what message is Russia sending to the world from this conference?
Well, what Russia is saying is we're open and we want to do business with everybody. We welcome the whole world, and the more the merrier. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. My first time in Russia. St. Petersburg is a beautiful city, and it's modern, it's clean. Everybody here, the Russian people, have been very polite and kind. They're not my enemy, Jim.
I know they're not. I know they're not very, very well. I have investments here. I'm involved here. I was bearish on Russia for 48 years. Now I'm very optimistic and looking forward to the future in Russia.
Absolutely.
I wish Washington, D.C. understood what was happening.
Me too. I don't understand the U.S. establishment's animosity, hatred of Russia. What is driving it?
Politics, votes, it's easier to condemn foreigners, and Russia has been condemned in American history for a long time because of the communists, but that's long since passed. The Russians like Americans. They want to do things with Americans. I don't understand it either. There was a short period there, 10 or 15 years, when America and Russia were very friendly, but for some reason they now think they can get votes by bashing Russia.
There's a lot of similarities between the Russian people and the American people. We ought to be allies. We ought to be friends.
I know we should be. Look at a map. You'll see it's a gigantic country. They have lots of resources, many of which we need. No, we should be doing things together and taking over the world. Not taking over the world, but, getting more and more prosperous together.
Absolutely. We're now in an era of economic sanctions and trade wars. Is this good or bad?
Nobody has ever won a trade war in history. Trade wars have always been bad for everyone, no matter, including other people around. You and I might be in a trade war, but he gets hurt, she gets hurt, everybody gets hurt by trade wars. I don't know of any case where sanctions have actually worked in history. Maybe there is one or two. They hurt a few people. But if you look at, for instance, right now, we have sanctions, we the Americans have sanctions against Russia. Russian agriculture is booming. It's the best thing we could have done for Russian agriculture. They're just making fortunes, and it's growing. And unfortunately, Rick, that means in 5 years there's going to be a strong Russian agricultural industry, which is going to compete with American farmers. We're shooting ourselves in the foot.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Long term, are the U.S. and EU sanctions against Russia hurting Russia or making it stronger?
They're actually helping Russia in the end. First, for the few days, weeks, months, there were problems, but they've adapted, like every country in history has adapted to sanctions, and now they're doing better. And many European companies and countries don't like the sanctions. They're trying to get out from under the sanctions. The Italian government just had an election. They say, we don't want the sanctions. The French are saying it. Many people are saying these sanctions are crazy.
And historically, sanctions typically lead to war.
Trade wars, economic difficulties, sanctions have often led to war throughout history. It's very insightful of you. That's another reason not to have sanctions and trade wars. Let's hope it doesn't get that far this time.
Okay, both of you and I are, when we leave this interview, we're going to go to see Vladimir Putin. He will be speaking here very soon. Do you have any idea, any expectation of what you think he's going to say in this conference? He's got, there's 4,000 news media representatives are here. So he's got the world news media gathered, and this is coming a day after the North Korea-U.S. summit in Singapore was canceled. So do you have any idea what he's going to say today?
Rick, I know what politicians are going to say everywhere. I can say it better than they can.
All right, what is it?
They're going to say, this country's great. We're making progress. Things are going to be better here. You should come here. You should invest here, and everything will be terrific.
You got it.
I know what he's going to say. It doesn't matter who they are. I've heard them all over the world all my life.
We were in Davos, Switzerland earlier this year, and President Trump spoke, and there was a lot of speculation. What's he going to say? Is he going to insult the world leaders there? Because they were insulting him before he got there. And I told our team, I said, no, he's not going to insult them. He's going to say, America is open for business. We're going to make America great again. Come over to America and become part of it. And that's exactly what he said.
They're all going to say it. Doesn't matter where they are, who they are. I don't like to go to them anymore because I know what they're going to say. As I say, I can say it better than they can because I've heard it so many times.
But doesn't it really come down to that all countries basically just want to make money and prosper their countries? Isn't that really what all the leaders are trying to do?
That's what they say they're trying to do. Some think they're trying to do it. Like in America right now, they want to have a trade war. They think they're helping America. It's not helping America. But all the politicians say they're going to help their country and make things better. Many of them are wrong, and many of them make mistakes.
How's this trade war affecting China?
Well, right now, same thing. You know, the Chinese are adapting to what's going on. The Chinese also, they're smart enough to know how to make Mr. Trump happy. You know, they know that Trump won the election because of agricultural states and energy states. So the Chinese have said, we'll buy more agriculture, we'll buy more energy. Now, Trump knows that that's where his votes are. That makes him happy, that makes his voters happy. For a while, though, Trump was threatening, and the Chinese were saying, okay, we'll put tariffs on agriculture. The White House phone went off the hook because all the farmers were calling up, saying, wait a minute. I'm a soybean farmer. I'm a pig farmer. You can't do this to me. He's calmed down.
So is it a game of chicken? You push to see how far you can go?
I'm not sure Mr. Trump knew what he was saying when he started saying that until he looked at a map and said, oh my gosh, my voters came from the farm belt and the energy belt. I better change my tune.
Let's talk about North Korea. You know, the decision yesterday to cancel the peace talks. Are you surprised?
Not really. I'm surprised that it went that far. I know Trump. I know the generals want to keep troops in South Korea. That's the main problem. The Chinese want peace. North Koreans want peace. South Koreans want peace. But peace, Rick, will mean 30,000 American troops have to go somewhere, because after this peace...
Why is that a bad thing?
I think it's great. You and I, we're taxpayers. We're paying to have 30,000.
Right.
You know, the Korean War was over 60 years ago.
That's right.
It's a long, long time ago. What are we doing to occupying South Korea now? But the generals want, if you look at a map, if they have to take the 30,000 troops out of there, there's no place close to China that they can put them. And so they want to keep the 30,000 troops there. Now, of course, South Korea doesn't want them. China doesn't want them. North Korea doesn't want them. They want peace. They want to open things. The kid's making dramatic changes in North Korea.
But what about China's flexing its muscles in the South China Sea? They landed a nuclear bomber last week on an island.
I didn't know it was a nuclear bomber, but
right.
Maybe you speak with the CIA. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just going by what they reported in the South China Morning Post. So let's say a bomber capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, okay? And so are they saying, are they warning the United States, hey, we're now running Asia, you guys got to back off?
Rick, Mr. Trump is making China great again. He pulled out of the TPP. The Asians are, what? So that's pushing everybody into the arms of the Chinese. Nearly everything he's doing is turning out to be good for China. Pulling out of the North Korean negotiations. That's good for China. That means South Korea and China get closer together. That means North Korea gets closer. None of this is good for the United States. It's great for China. It's not good for us.
Now, we learned from a source in China today that Kim Jong-Un is in Beijing today. He took his green train and made a trip. So are the Chinese trying to get him back into the peace talks, or are the Chinese directing?
He didn't pull out of the peace talks.
Right.
America pulled out of the peace talks.
That's true.
Mr. Trump said, you said ugly things. And everybody said, what did we say? And what it turns out, somebody in North Korea said, Mr. Pence, Vice President Pence, is ignorant.
Yeah.
And so they said, listen, millions of Americans every day say Mr. Pence is ignorant. What is this?
Well, also, I think they didn't show up at a meeting, pre-meeting meeting. I think they did a no-show.
Okay.
But is that typical?
If your view is that the North Koreans did this, I have an entirely different view, and I think most of the rest of the world does too.
Do you expect North Korea and South Korea to unite? Are we going to see it in our lifetime?
Yes, there's going to be unification. I'm on record several times in the last 2 or 3 years predicting that North and South Korea will be united soon.
And what kind of opportunities are we looking at?
Oh, Rick, I wish I could invest in North Korea. I wish I could. They need soap. They need tablecloths. They need electricity. They need everything you can think of. They need TV. They need Christian TV.
Yeah,
they need everything
they do.
in North Korea. I wish we could invest there. You and I, the Russians can invest there. The Chinese can invest. Everybody in the world, nearly everybody can invest there.
But you and I can't?
You and I, we're citizens of the land of the free. We cannot invest there. Everybody else is rushing in there now. And you and I have to sit and look out the window and say, wish.
Hey, one final question before I let you go. Are you still expecting a severe stock market correction?
Well, Rick, we have had stock market corrections throughout history, every 4 to 8 years, often. We're going to continue to have them. Janet Yellen, who was head of the Federal Reserve, says, no, we're not. We're not going to have stock market corrections ever again. Not going to have economic problems ever again. I happen to know she's wrong. And what I have said is the next one's going to be the worst in our lifetime. I don't know when it's coming. Watch Trunews, and you can find out when it's coming. In 2008, we had a problem because of too much debt. Rick, the debt since 2008 everywhere has skyrocketed, even in China, which had little debt in 2008.
So the problem's worse. The
next time we have a correction, an economic problem, is going to be the worst in my lifetime. And I'm older than you, so it's going to be a bad one.
Jim, thank you so much for being here.
Rick.
Appreciate it.
My
An honor to
pleasure.
meet you.
My pleasure.
Take care.